Cut the Clutter, as we all know, is now 1,000 episodes old. And that gives me an opportunity to talk a little bit about how the concept came into being, the kind of new situations we've been through, ups and downs for India and the world, and how Cut the Clutter has expanded its reach and also redefined itself and evolved as we've gone along. I'm happy to welcome you to the first edition of Cut the Clutter, 100th edition, 400th episode. It is the 500th episode, 700th episode of Cut the Clutter, 800th episode of Cut the Clutter. Now, the first question you may ask me is that you will find very soon that we will start putting out some activity that we are going to turn 5. That is leading up to our 5th birthday. So the print will be 5 in about 3 months from now. So you might say that if you're going to be 5 in about 3 months from now, and if Cut the Clutter is 5 times a week, you should have been maybe somewhere near 1,500 episode, not 1,000. The reason behind that is that for more than a year after we started, we weren't quite sure what we should do on video, because there was so much TV all around us and everybody seemed to be doing the same thing on YouTube. So we had to figure out what to do. And that is when, quite fortunately, we found that a very talented man called Milind Khandekar, who used to head ABP News, he was between jobs. He had some time. I think the world of him. So I reached out to Milind Khandekar and I asked him that since he was between the jobs, would he come and spend about a month and a half with us as a consultant and give us some ideas and get us started on our video properties. And he it was who came up with the idea of Cut the Clutter, because his point was precisely that there is a lot of clutter on the media. That if you watch TV channels in particular, people are fed up because TV channels are about so-called debates among people whose views are all predictable. Everybody knows what A will say in a debate, what B will say, or what XYZ will say, because debating teams are now turning out to be almost a dozen strong, if not more. So he said, do something that goes away from noise and tries to make sense. And whenever you start a new product, you have to think about what your strengths are or what the value of the brand is. So his idea, which I accepted wholeheartedly, was that you have age on your side. So age, experience, I presume some guile, some knowledge, so use that. So in fact, as we went over these ideas, brainstorming with Milind, I reminded him of something that I had caught and that had stuck to my mind from a film called Johnny Gaddar, where Dharmendra is an old man and a crook, and his younger crooks with him in his gang, they ask him, "Aap is age mein bhi hoke ye kaam karte ho?" And he says, it's not about the age, it's about mileage. So precisely, we decided to focus on the mileage. But mileage itself is not enough, because there is something new happening every day. In fact, as I was speaking to you now, recording for this special presentation on Cut the Clutter, I am weighing the choice of 3 different subjects for today's Cut the Clutter. And these range from the New Economist articles showing how India could be the fastest growing large economy in the world for the next many years, unless it messes things up itself. It also explains how India could mess things up. I'm tempted to do an analysis of that, and I know a lot of people will watch it. But also, at the same time, say the Congress party is having its convention or its Chintan Baithak in Udaipur. That also is a very important thing. So that's a possibility. And third, believe it or not, a country like El Salvador, a sovereign nation in Central America, they've defaulted on their foreign payments. Why? Because they put a lot of their reserves in Bitcoin, and they also declared Bitcoin to be an official tender. So I have the choice of 3. I have to read up on one of the 3. Now, if it's Indian politics, I was telling somebody the other day, and people ask me, how long does it take you to work on these? I say somehow expansively that if it's Indian politics, 10 minutes. If it's something on the economy, maybe 3 hours, because that's out of my syllabus. If it's geopolitics, depends on what geopolitics. If it's Pakistan, China, maybe less time. The US may be less time. Israel may be less time. But But over these 1,000 episodes, we've gone so far as Ethiopia, where a war's been taking place, to Mali. We've talked about Nigeria in Africa. In fact, we've discovered Africa. And it was during this process, we also had one full episode of Cut the Clutter on how on many social indicators now, what is called as sub-Saharan Africa is actually much better than India. So those things take a very long time. Or if it comes to science, because a lot of our coverage, a lot of our episodes over the past 3.5 years have been about COVID and science. Now, for example, one of our most popular episodes was about how fresh doubts had emerged among scientists, not on WhatsApp. Fresh doubts had emerged among scientists and experts as to where the coronavirus, COVID virus had come from, that possibly it had escaped from a Chinese lab, and there was a large cover up on that. That required a lot of reading up. Now, that reading up, I can't do all of it myself. I might get the credit for all of it, but a lot of smart young people have helped me along in this time. And I will give you some names, and this list may not be totally definitive. So if I miss out anybody, my apologies. I will try and make up for it in the next few days. Anybody I miss out, I will acknowledge in the next few days. But if I just go over the list, and this is not chronological, if I just go over the list, there is Raghav Bikhchandani, Sukriti Vats, Amog Rometra, Unnati Sharma, Tenzin Zompa, P.A. Krishnan Kutti, Shubhangi Mishra, Nikhil Rampal, Simran Sirur, who now covers environment for us. I'm happy to say all of us are still with us. You see their bylines all the time, quite prolifically on the print. Then there is Ayush Patnaik, Karvi Grewal. Karvi is studying overseas. Ayush has found a different profession. Taran Deol is working at another organization. There is Tara Rao. She was a student intern with us, so I presume she's finishing her studies. There is Anandita Mehrotra and Anjali Bidla. Anjali Bidla is now in Central Services. So people who were students, who were working with us, who were interns, or who were young journalists. So we have this brilliant program called Young Journalist Program, where people come straight from campus and they become journalists in no time. In fact, from the moment they walk in, we treat them as journalists. So all of them have contributed. And then we have our stellar video section headed by Sajid Ali Mir, who is right now holding this camera. There is also Manas Gurung and many others, and you will see their pictures and names as we go along in this video. So all of them have made Cut the Clutter what it has turned out to be. Now, there were many discussions over what it should be, how long should it be. But then again, we deferred, I got people to defer to my age or mileage, as I said earlier, to give me the freedom to keep it to as long as I spoke. I speak without a teleprompter, never. In fact, the principles I followed for this are the same principles that I followed, say, for Walk the Talk, when I started recording Walk the Talk for NDTV. That means no tie, no makeup, no studio lights, nothing formal, no prompter in my ear for someone to tell me what to ask, what not to ask. The only new thing I have done, the only compromise in case of Cut the Clutter is these notes. And I know all of you like these yellow sheets, and I keep thinking that we should develop product around these. And I think you will have those, including our own branded yellow sheets, because there is also something cute about using paper and hand scribbled notes at a time when everybody is into technology. So a lot of people told me, why don't you use an iPad or something? But it's not fun. And my handwriting is so bad, you can look at this, my handwriting is so bad, mostly even I struggle to read it. But you remember what? When I was a student in school and college, for me to prepare for anything, particularly exams, I had to write what I was reading. And that then sticks to your head. So this is more a way for me to remember, and also for me to feel confident that I know what this is about. Again, like Walk the Talk, this is a single frame show. Anybody who knows anything about TV will tell you. Otherwise, you will have 3, 4, 5 cameras recording you, and somebody while editing then will take some from here, some from there, and put it all together. You will also see a broad classification on the screen of the subjects that we have taken up. Now, many subjects can fall into different categories at the same time. So there is domestic politics, foreign affairs, security and defense, a strong franchise for us. Pakistan, China, US, Israel, Iran, Turkey, several times, the Middle East, lots of Africa. It's been in discovery of Africa for me. Sahel, the Sahel region. Usually those areas are not even covered in our media, and if they do, they are like your eye glazes over them. But it's been fascinating to learn about these, and I'm gratified that a lot of you have been interested in watching these. For example, when we wrote about the war in Ethiopia, that is the insurgency in Tigray, I was very skeptical that people will be interested, but see how many people watched it. And there was also a great note of irony there, because the president or the boss of Ethiopia who had launched this war had just recently been given the Nobel Prize for Peace. Now, if there's one thing you can't accuse me of doing, is of not multitasking. I multitask all the time. I travel. I'm an outdoors person. I'm outdoors a lot. So then to keep doing 5 episodes a week, and to begin with we had 6, we also had to learn to shoot outdoors. So that's why you've seen many of them, particularly during the pandemic, during the peaks of the pandemic, when we went in work from home pattern. And then you saw us talking in front of plants, pots, under open skies with planes going overhead, because my house falls right in the flight path of planes landing in Delhi. You've heard and seen birds, dogs, cats, all kinds of things. And I know that often many of you have complained about audio quality. So we've done what we can do right with audio quality. But again, we thought that if we are outdoors, then let our viewers, readers also get the sense of being outdoors. So we can't bring you the flavors and fragrances and smells of outdoors, but we can bring you the look and the sounds of outdoors. And after all, bird song, I know sometimes, particularly if it's peacocks, it can get to be quite distracting. But if it's a barbet, which is the case most of the time, I don't think most people would complain, and people have actually been noticing it and liking it. So we crossed some new frontiers in terms of being rough and ready. Also, technology makes our life much easier. So we learned to shoot with phone cameras, then we learned to use a tripod, and then for a long time when I was traveling, I'll have just drag anybody to record. I've troubled my wife, I've troubled my people working for me, I've troubled half an army of drivers in various places as I've traveled. I've got hotel staff recording it with me, and I've shared some of those pictures on social media, and they do it happily and with a smile. And now, you know what? I've also learned to shoot by myself. So I carry a tripod with me. I know how to fix my phone onto the tripod, and I know to keep looking at the phone, at the lens, and not shift my gaze anywhere else, and to make sure that my voice is being picked up. So these are things that technology help you learn. And for me, CTC has been as much a learning experience as it's been a kind of satiating experience for somebody who is such a news addict. Because if you are curious, you are a news addict, and there's no greater pleasure than learning new things and also realizing every day how little do you know. There's been lots and lots of feedback. We've had a very newsy environment. I told you the choices I have for today, and I have to make one choice and then read up on it, and that I have to also write and then record national interest. So various things travel in your mind as you do it. But once again, I'm blessed with great colleagues, fantastic young people, but most of all, fantastic, brilliant, generous, and very forgiving viewers like millions of you.